watching and listening to Breakfast with Ellie and Nicholas.
And it's time to go through the papers now. And joining us this morning is author Ella Whelan and broadcaster Claire Muldoon. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thanks for being here with us. Ella, let's start with you, shall we? And it's the crisis in the NHS. A quarter of patients left waiting for A&E admission. This is in The Guardian.
Yes, so throughout the programme and pretty much endlessly we've been discussing the crisis in the NHS. It is a crisis that never goes away, an ongoing crisis, and new figures out showed that. I just wanted to highlight, because it's quite remarkable, that almost 27% of people waited with crews for more than an hour who were in an ambulance, that more than 43% of ambulance arrivals waited more than 30 minutes. So basically the chances are, if you call an ambulance at the moment, whether for whatever reason, and you're going into hospital, you are going to face some kind of, a high proportion of you are going to face some kind of significant wait. And on top of that, the important thing to note is in the detail that you're not going in and waiting somewhere, that actually lots of people are waiting in ambulances with ambulance crew. A friend of mine's mother had to be brought in by ambulance a number of weeks ago, and she told me about the fact that her and her mother, who'd had a fall, was nothing massively life-threatening, were waiting with paramedics in an ambulance overnight and then well into the morning, which means that those, and she said, it was very nice for my mother to be kept company, but it meant that those paramedics weren't back out on the road helping more people, going and saving more lives, people who are incredibly skilled and should be doing a particular job. And so it begs the question as to, why something as simple as, throughout the pandemic we built those Nightingale hospitals, there was a big push to create actual, physical space and buildings to be able to deal with COVID patients. Why can't we do something similar in terms of extending something as simple as extending hospitals by a few buildings to have the kind of space for waiting rooms so that people with non-threatening, illnesses that bring them in with an ambulance, whether it's that someone's had a fall or something like that, could be kept, rather than waiting in an ambulance, keeping paramedics from being out on the job, could be kept somewhere and then be triaged into A&E.
I think that's an excellent idea. I really do, because they were left dormant all over the country.
Yeah.
How many of them are actually used? I would say none.
And there was the impetus throughout the pandemic to do something like that, which I think should be celebrated. There's this sense that we have to do something, let's actually put some bricks in the ground.
Yep.
But all of that seems to have gone. And The Guardian quotes the Health Secretary, Steve Barclay, who says that the focus is to get people out of hospital who are fit to leave, which is a part of this. There is part of a problem is that once you're in hospital, lots of people, particularly on the older spectrum of age, are left there when they should be brought home much quicker. But that's only just a part of it. I think most of the problem is that they don't have the staff within hospitals to deal with people who are coming in, and with high levels of flu, high levels of RSV, particularly among children at this time of year, the numbers are just too many.
You touched on a point there. It's all very well to talk about extra buildings, but staff.
Yeah.
You say we haven't got the staff to run the existing operation, let alone extension.
And one thing that's
practical problem.
Yeah, and one thing that Wes Streeting from the Labour Party has made a suggestion, which I think would be, the government should institute immediately, which is to create non-graduate pathways going into the NHS. At the moment, particularly for nurses and things, you have to go and get a degree, and there's lots of.
Well, that's back to the Blair times, isn't it? Because he wanted to make nursing a degree status, which is just not right in my view.
So you have having people trained in a different way, train quickly on the job for doing, we're not saying you go in and immediately become a heart surgeon, but, proper training for someone who doesn't need to have a degree level to go in and then get the numbers for staffing up, and, has to be said, offering them a decent pay, because that's definitely
one of our viewers tweeted me this morning to say that Mark Drakeford in Wales wanted everyone just to, patients that were bed blocking, for instance. But the thing is, there's no joined up thinking with district nursing, local GPs, or even social services. Yeah. There is no joined up thinking to let people leave hospital, to unblock these beds, to go home to suitable homes that they can actually live and thrive in.
Yeah,
there's none.
Doesn't get
absolutely none.
The Prime Minister is having this huge meeting today. Let's hope, these things are actually top of the...
Well, we live in hope, Nicholas. We live in hope.
You're
Listen,
right.
talk about hope.
Yes.
Sunshine.
Yes,
Yeah.
nice
Let's
segue
talk about
there.
Nice
Absolutely.
holidays.
Well, one is from the Express, but two is page 10. Sunshine Saturday. That's what we've got right now. As if this panel here couldn't bring any more sunshine into people's lives and their
We
homes.
have our own teams.
And your tie. Even your tie.
And my tie.
Yeah.
So this is the day traditionally where everybody books their summer holidays, and if there was any doom and gloom, not that there is with Muldoon, if there's any doom and gloom at all, this is the day to book it. And there's lots of availability, apparently, lots of sales on, and they're urging people, forget the cost of living crisis, forget bills, forget everything that we're seeing at the moment. Let's look forward to the summer and let's get away.
Will people be able to afford it, though? That's the thing. I mean, we are in a cost of living crisis, but Sally Gethin was telling us this morning, the travel expert,
Yes.
so it's up 30% on 2019. Book
Holidays
already.
or book it demand. Yeah. Well, the Express have got 5 of the best holiday deals on offer. 7 nights all inclusive, and they say that all inclusive is the way to go because you can actually, budget to your last penny. At Blue Seas, Monte Vista, Hawaii, Hawaii, in Lorette de Mar, Costa Brava, from £243 per person with Love Holidays. And there's quite a lot of them on here. British Airways have got their sale on. So there's, everyone, if you feel like it.
And if you can,
log on, and if you can, have something to look forward to.
Yeah, I think we're all in desperate need of a holiday, aren't we? That's for sure.
We're just in desperate
It's
need of
tough
good
out there.
news, and
We are.
Yeah.
Sunshine Saturday today. Do let us know if you've managed to find a bargain today. I like to show those kind of things. GBNews@gbnews.uk. I did hear yesterday some people were telling me there's some really good bargains to be had. So they are out there. Ella, let's have a look at the Telegraph now, shall we? And Labour is trying to attempt early retirees back to work.
Yeah, so forget the holidays. What about getting back into the office? There is, we have this issue, which is that we're one of the worst in the G7 for the increased rate of economic connectivity. It's only increased 1%, and we've got the sort of strange position of having a huge labour shortage in the UK, particularly after the pandemic. Part of that reason is because lots of people in the age range of 50 to 64 decided to jack it in throughout the pandemic for various reasons. 2 in 5 said that it was, quoting sickness or disability. But actually, I think a lot of people just thought, life's too short for me to do this continue to do this rubbish job. I'm going to go home and look after my garden or do the things that I enjoy in life. And but it does pose an issue that we don't have as we were just talking about the NHS, we don't have enough people to get in and do the jobs that need to be done. And so Labour's solution to this is to tempt the over 50s to go into get back to work lessons. You can tell there's a kind of air of cynicism in what I'm saying, because I think a lot of this is probably slightly insulting to those who are over 50. They say that people will be more likely to get back into jobs if they can meet job centre staff in a nice cafe, because job centres themselves are sort of too hostile a place. I think that's just nonsense. But more substantially, they want to introduce new rights: the right to work from home, the right to work flexibly, and the right to work fewer hours, in order to sort of tempt the over 50s back into work. I actually think this is the completely wrong way to go about it, and particularly if you're of a, the reason why lots of people will have left work is because either their working conditions or the place where they're working wasn't a nice place to be, or the job was rubbish, or the pay wasn't good enough to warrant working there. And so what you should do, instead of sort of tempting people to work from home, is, particularly if you're of an older age, although actually over 50 is not old, let's remember.
I'm over 50 and my birthday was the 4th of January.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Certainly over 50. So.
Some of the tone of this is a bit like, how do we get the oldies back into work, which is like...
Oh, watch it there.
No, but
watch it there.
What I'm saying is that over 50 is not oldies. But a better way to do it is to say, how can we make working life, public life, more attractive? And that probably would come down to pay and training opportunities. Offering people the ability to retrain and reskill, do something different. Move from, working in the automotive industry to dentistry. Whatever it is, do something like that. I think would be much more tempting than saying, let's meet your job centre advisor in a cafe.
I'm actually staggered to find out 90% of over over 50s who have quit employment are now looking to get back into work.
Wow.
And I wouldn't necessarily say that those that are over 50 that do want to get back into work are actually job centre material, in that they are receiving benefits that would enable them to meet with someone from the job centre. I would just think if they were to have left employment, they would have left employment because they can't afford to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you don't get JS, or it's not JSA anymore. You don't get universal credit if you've quit your job. So this is,
Yeah, so it's a bit of a moot point, actually, and it's quite a worrying statistic.
Have we just got time, Belle, of the story? Another Telegraph story, isn't it, about new cabin crew uniforms at BA? What's this?
There's been so much discussion about uniforms in for flight crew because of the suggestion of the introduction of gender neutral ones and things like that. But BA has brought in a new uniform designed by Oswald Boateng, who's Savile Row Taylor, has been on television and Next Top Model and all that kind of stuff. But one of the pieces is a jumpsuit, and so some of the crew have been suggesting that if you're on a long flight with lots of demanding customers and someone banging on the door asking for another cup of coffee, and you're fiddling with the zip on the back of your jumpsuit and not able to get to the loo quick enough, that might be an issue. I mean, it is very stylish.
Oh, I think it's very cool.
I think it's really lovely.
Yeah.
But
You probably do need a fellow crew member to zip you in and zip you out.
and let's face it, the toilets aren't that big.
No.
And being a woman of a certain age,
If you are listening on the radio right now, it's a navy blue jumpsuit with a red necktie and kind of red detailing on the sleeves. It's fashionable, I'd say. Very cool. Perhaps not practical though, and that is the point, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, the men are offered a three-piece suit and women are offered these kind of things. I happen to think actually women in three-piece suits or something similar is very nice. And actually at the bottom, you won't be able to see this, people who are listening on the radio, but they've got a runway style throughout the ages of all the different kinds of flight crew. And I think we should bring back some of the old styles, some of the kind of...
and I think one of the most iconic there is the number 3, which was the Paul Costello cabin crew of 2003. I think everyone would look at that and think that was the one of the...
Can you describe that?
the dress? Well, it's a dress with the red, white and blue logo on, and then a navy jacket, single-breasted jacket, with a navy hat on top, with the navy coat and the navy shoe and the navy tight for the female aircraft crew, which was lovely. And I think everyone would note it. It's quite iconic. That and number 5, which was the Calvin Klein one, which was the straight red, white and blue. And I think, to get all these, get British Airways, which is our national airline, to get some pride back into it, it'd be lovely. And I think the new chief exec is making all the right noises. He's brought back in the ability for you to have a drink and a snack on the aircraft instead of charging for it. So I think they're definitely making the right moves to make travelling on our national airline as best as it possibly can be.
That's all. Claire, Ella, for the moment, thank you very much.
Yeah,
thank you.
Look at the papers there.